Welcome to Cinemondo with Kathy and Ramesh. We are here to
Well,
talk about Hit 3, finally.
yes, hit three, finally.
Hit 3,
It,
yes. There's been technically 4. There's Hit 1, 2, and
yes,
3, and they also remade 2. They're kind of an anthology series of cop crime thrillers with different actors, different storylines. So they don't I think they're same universe, but they're totally their own self-contained stories. Like, you don't need to
yes.
know anything about Hit 1 and 2 to appreciate 3 or vice versa,
Yeah,
so
that's true. I mean, nowadays it's bit, whenever people say it's a universe,
mhm.
it's just that they're gonna bring in those actors, either
Yes.
the lead actors or the lead, maybe the villains. They
Mhm.
just get together in some of the movies. It's like helping hands,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes,
So
exactly. So Hit 3 is notable because it apparently is one of like the 4th biggest grossing Telugu movie, I think they said. It did really well. It wasn't like record breaking, but it broke some records. Did very well at the box office. It'll be on streaming soon, I'm sure. But it's most notable that it's Nani starring in it, who is mostly known for kind of his relationship lighter tone fare. He's done a
mhm.
few here and there, but this is where he's like going full in, just like Robert Kapoor did in Animal. He's like, okay, I'm done being the nice guy. I'm going to come in and I'm going to just really blow people away. And there's always a risk, I think, because he's very good looking. He's very boyish. He's very sweet. He's got this kind of reputation. So when somebody like this tries to go in and do this, it
Mhm.
sometimes doesn't work because people are like, I'm not buying it. But I bought it. I thought he was great because it was kind of disarming to see someone like that in that role.
Yes, in a way, I mean, it's a good. The good thing about Nani is that he explores different kinds of genres, and he's very expressive.
Yes.
So he always he started with being a boy next door, and
Yeah.
then there were these movies where okay he became a mainstream hero
Yeah.
with some plot lines. You have the villains fighting here and there,
Hmm.
and then now this one is yeah it's a little bit different. It's very dark and
Yeah.
completely off the track,
Yes.
but it's good for him. It's a refreshing take as well, bringing in other actors to try out these roles.
Yeah.
So I think people would have definitely enjoyed that.
I'm just predisposed. One thing I love best, I'm predisposed to love cop dramas. I just love those anyway, like crime kind of things.
Mhm.
Especially this one that just decided to take it to the extra level and just go full on gore and horror, basically,
Yeah.
especially at the end. And I'm a sick person. I love anything to do with like snuff films, like trying to track down the people making them. Like, that's just extra intriguing to me because there doesn't seem to be anything worse than that. Like, that's just so creepy that
Mhm.
I love seeing them crack that case. So they had a lot of this stuff in here. And they had an animal, like this guy's
Ah, yes.
prone to do. And it was a very strange choice, but he has a pet vulture, but he does help
It's
cover up crimes for him.
it's very unusual. I mean, I don't have many.
I've never seen that before. And I've seen a lot of stuff, but I've never seen Pet
Yeah,
Vulture. And the vulture ends up
he's
having a big heroic moment by
yeah.
he allowed the cops who were trying to rush in and save Nani because they knew he was in this
Hmm.
group, CTK group
Yeah,
that was making snuff films, led them to the high headquarters by putting a little device on the bird's wings, and it's almost like he knew, so he was a hero. I'm just
yeah.
saying.
I mean, I would put it.
Ama-
The vulture was his own GPS, walking around,
Exactly. The
flying for
vulture
everyone.
helped them a lot, and he covered up. Nani was a very questionable character. We've talked about
Mhm.
before, like when you have cops that end up being there's corrupt, there's the cops that beat the bad guys, and then there's cops like Nani's cop character who
Mhm.
actually murders people and
Yeah.
tortures them. He gets in trouble a little bit. He goes to jail a little bit, but
Yeah,
he gets out.
he's
Uh,
one of those, if you have different kinds of cops, he's one of those who's like, very impulsive,
Very impulsive.
who's yeah, who wants to just, get done with things, no
Right.
discussions or anything.
He's
So
like, "You're guilty, and I'm gonna kill you." That's basically his
yeah.
philosophy. But they start off a little bit. They start off kind of at a lower level about like kind of him, his questionable tactics. He ends up, I guess, doing some jail time. He gets out. He's trying to get back into the force and kind of gain some respect. But one of the funniest things I thought was unusual, I didn't expect, was like they have this running joke about him going on blind date, which
Ah, yes.
they use internet dating. So he goes and he is gorgeous. So you're like, oh, of course, women. But they all sit down at a table with him and they always tell them, I'll be right back. And they bail. He cannot keep a woman at the table because he's so messed up.
I
So
mean,
women can see the red flags. This
there's
guy
there's
is
there
not
is
good.
there are a lot of red flags to begin with too.
A
The way
lot.
he questions them, it's like,
Yes.
he's not on a date. He's like interrogating them.
Yeah.
What's your objective? What's your mission? Why are you
What's
even
your
doing this?
mission? My mission is to find a man to marry and have babies. And he's like,
Yes.
I don't know. I think you're lying.
No.
He's really funny in it though. So,
Yeah.
he's not the easiest guy to get along with, and I think women are seeing that, but he does end up
Mhm.
meeting a woman who's very intrigued by him.
Yes.
And turns out there's a reason. She's also a cop. Hey, it
Yeah.
works out. But I
It
love
does
that he
work
didn't
out.
really know that. So when
Mhm.
he finds out, he feels a little betrayed, but I'm like, come on.
But I mean, in a way, it's like, yeah, he gets blinded by himself, I would say, like for
Mhm.
especially for the heroine,
Yeah.
because he's questioning every other date that's out there, but then when it comes to her, he's like, oh, he starts melting away
Yeah,
because
he's like,
that's the way shit.
I know it's so funny. So he has his soft side. So that
Yeah.
makes him kind of endearing. That kind of humanize him.
Hmm.
But ultimately, he wants to get to the bottom of some disappearances, especially a woman who has lost her baby, and he wants to find the baby. So that's his big like. I don't know why all of a sudden he's he's a softie like
Yeah.
that, but he's decided that might help. I think redeem him a little bit if
Yes.
he can solve this series of crimes. In the meantime, part of what he's doing is taking suspects out into the woods and hanging them from trees and killing them.
Yes.
And then he's blaming it on a serial killer, and he goes investigates his own cases. So it's all
Hmm.
very complicated, but I love that because he's very complicated. But if there's anybody who's going to find this CTK gang, which I love that idea, who's basically making snuff films in the middle of the jungle somewhere.
Hmm.
He invites all these rich people out to watch and have fun with
Hmm.
it. He's the guy. But there's a lot.
Yeah.
It gets complicated though, doesn't it?
Well, they could have. I mean, honestly, I think they should have done more of a build up on the CTK group or this particular group that they shown in the movie. They have this, there are these set of rules that you have to go through
Yeah,
before you can become a member,
that's right.
but they never do a background check. Come on, that's something that I'm like, yeah, you are, you're a supposedly probably will be deemed as a terrorist
That's right.
organization or something. I don't
That's right.
know, but that they are a cult. Come on, you have a cult from all
Yeah.
across the
Yes.
country, but then you don't do a background check. And
Yeah.
come on, and then Nani being a cop, he shows up on the TV several times, even within the movie.
That's true. He's in the crowd watching his own, case being publicized.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of, you kind of suspension of disbelief where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I can take it that probably this organization is not a bunch of smart people because they're doing this in the first place. But I do like that they kind of put you through your paces to kind of make sure to find out who's real and who isn't, where they make you kill someone in front of them. Like they have a fight to the death.
Yeah.
Or sort of like your initiation in a way.
Hmm.
So he has to fight this woman who's crazy. Well, I
Yes.
thought it was funny too because she all comes on to him and that like
Hmm.
makes her a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the most interest he's ever gotten from a woman. Usually they're walking out on it. And I was kind of surprised. He was like, oh no, I can't. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
But I did like, okay, so there are a few things. It's almost like two movies. It felt like two movies. We have the initial, like you were talking about. We have the
Hmm.
complicated kind of cases and him, trying to redeem himself and going on the dates and being kind of a crooked cop. And then we have, like you're saying, there wasn't much of a buildup. It was kind of like first, and now we're at this place that does the snuff films or whatever. And now we're
Hmm.
here, and it was kind of quick, kind of sudden. They didn't, like I said, they didn't really build up to it a lot. There was just little hints of
Yes.
CPK, but it would have been maybe a little more advanced notice to that. But it felt like two fun movies.
Yeah, I guess the reason, one thing is the runtime gets longer and then they had to cut it short, especially in the
Oh,
first half where they probably didn't want to keep this movie to be like a dark thriller altogether. They had these comedic
that
moments
was the best
with the death.
part.
Yeah,
That is not the part that should
and
have been cut.
yes. So I think build up
Okay.
obviously they didn't have much runtime to
A
do
little choppy.
there.
Mhm.
Yes. And at the same time, I guess, yeah, especially when it comes to having a thriller movie, I guess you're supposed to build up on the story altogether.
Yeah.
I just feel that honestly from my perspective they could have done a better job with the cult group, like
Yeah.
how they are handling things, like even
Yeah.
that particular scene where they had these decoys, especially when they're, they
Yeah.
had these a bunch of cars going to
That's
multiple
right.
locations.
Yeah.
You don't just send the cops right away to investigate those places. Come on, it's
Yeah. No,
it's
what you do is you follow them, then you jump out of the car and run through the woods.
yeah.
It's like that's by yourself, by the way, by
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, that wasn't really thought out very well. But it almost seemed like they weren't getting much support from the police force to actually do anything about it. It just felt
Hmm.
a little like they were like a rogue group of cops who like, let's go solve this. And him
Yeah.
especially, he really wanted to because he wanted to be redeemed, right? So he
Hmm.
really wanted to solve it. But little did he know he's basically gonna be initiated and then he's gonna have to do
Yeah.
this or die. But the thing I liked is that the second half of the movie is what's mostly in the trailer. We see a lot of it in
Hmm.
the trailer, but it looks very super violent, like extra
Hmm.
gory. Like did a great job on the gore. I saw things I hadn't seen before, which says a lot because I've seen a lot of gore, a lot of movies.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, and the quality of the production was really good. I felt like they did a good job on making the gore effects special and clean, and it didn't look, I say clean, wet clean, and then but they did a great job on that, and they made him a little superhero-ish, where it didn't seem to matter what happened to him, it didn't really slow him down much. Like he got stabbed like in the ab, and he
Yeah.
kept going, and I'm
Where
like,
they,
eh, I don't know if you do. I don't know if you keep going when you're stabbed in the stomach. But I like how he said you can't pull the knife out, so he ended up continuing to fight with the knife in, and the
there
guy
was
was
there
trying to
was
grab him.
logic. That's a very good logic
Yeah,
that
it
he had.
was.
I mean, in a way, I kind of understand that. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, you need to have
Imagine
that
how
too.
painful that was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he's going through a lot of pain, trying to defend, trying to save
yeah,
that girl in
yeah.
that particular scene. And then there were, especially with the gore too, I think they did a good job, especially with one particular scene. There was
Oh,
one long scene without a cut. I don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah.
recall when he is,
I love good
when
one shot.
after initiating him,
Yes,
he has this, he's trying to save the people, and then he
yep,
walks from one room to the other.
yes.
That's a
So
single
good.
shot. They didn't cut. There was
I
only cut
love
and edit.
oneers. I love them.
Yeah.
It's so they
So.
become a thing now, it seems like, that big one
Mhm.
shot, because those are hard to do because if one person screws up, they
Yeah.
gotta start all over again. So I'm always
Yes.
blown away by those, and I like the extra attention to production
But
value that they do when they do it,
yeah, but
especially when
in a
it's gore and
way, it
violence
it
happening.
it it works for these gore movies because you know
Mm.
what? A person who ends up doing a mistake anyways gets chopped. So
So he fell down and he
you
didn't
fell down
quite
and
hit
then
you correctly. I know
but,
exactly.
but it's all right. There's always going to be after effects.
That's right. That's true. They'll be able to fix it and
So
cut it. They also,
uh,
well, they don't wanna cut it, but yeah, maybe CGI could kinda work on it.
but and also I feel that audience attention is more focused on the prime object, or the prime actor, like
Yeah,
the lead
that's
actor
true.
of the movie. You won't pay attention to a lot of other things.
That's true.
So yeah, I think that they did a good job there. Yeah, in a way it was good. Like, of course, every movie has its own set of loopholes, but
Yeah.
if you put that aside, yeah, overall I feel it's a good movie.
That's true. I thought it was good, and speaking of the one shot too, like I feel like there's been a few movies now coming along that are kind of in the John Wick mold where they're super
Hmm.
violent, and then like Marco, which I also really liked. Kind of from the other side where he's basically part of an organized crime group and he's trying to avenge his brother who was killed by another organized crime, but it kind of had the same thing of like your antagonist doing incredibly violent things to right a wrong or whatever they're doing. But they had a great one shot in Marco also, which was really complex, where he was going upstairs and he was fighting
Yeah.
all the way up these stairs, which was really intense because people were having to fly over railings and it was a much more contained space. So
Hmm.
that was really tricky. And then in this one, they were tracking him through hallways. It was like also very good. But
Yeah.
I love the like he's this really hardcore guy, but then he has this little soft spot, like there's a baby and he kind of goes, "Oh shit." And they have this incredibly disturbing scene where they bring the baby out and they have like this machete come
Yeah.
down on it. I was like, just seeing that, like they didn't have to do anything. Just seeing a big knife with a little baby in the scene was like,
Yeah.
but nothing tops the
But
big torture scene with the
at
woman
least I
who's like tied
think
by ropes.
that kind of, yeah, there's a
Woo!
lot, as there's a lot of blood and gore
That was a
there.
lot.
Yeah, but it kinds of, the things or the activities they were doing aligns with the values
Yes, it
set
does.
to that group too. Like, they don't have any kind of moral judgment.
No.
There are a bunch of psychopaths, I mean. So they
They're
don't
a bunch of
they,
psychopaths.
they
That's
don't
true.
care. They're like cold-blooded killers.
Yeah, they don't feel it.
So they don't
They
feel a thing. And I guess that kind of explains Nani's character, Arjun
mm,
Sarkar, the way he goes hacking and killing, because
yeah,
you can't talk logic or something to such kind of people, right? There's no way in communicating with them. It's
I
like,
did
might as well
yeah, that's
just
true. You got to
Yeah.
join him. But the interesting part is he had to kill people or pretend like he's a psychopath when you could see him kind of falter a little bit. Like when the baby came out, he was kind of,
Yeah.
you could see him thinking, going, okay, how am I going to get out of this? Or even
Yeah.
when they had him fighting in the ring and they bring the other cop in who was stupid enough to run through the woods to try and find this place by
Mhm.
himself. When they bring him into the ring again, they got to kill this guy. And he was kind of like, okay, like he didn't just go, okay, I'll kill him. Like he had to think like, how do I get out of this? Like he did have that enough awareness and consciousness. He really just wanted to bring out CTK, but it was also for self. He wanted to,
But
be
I
his.
don't know if this was intentional or not. There are a few nuances in the movie. So,
Mhm.
for example, that cop who gets caught by the
Yeah.
cult, and the villain is like interrogating him. He's like, okay, do you think Nani or Arjun Sarkar is a cop? And there is one scene where Arjun actually blinks his eyes. I don't
Yes.
know if you noticed that. So
Yeah.
he says that, you know what, just admit that I am the cop.
Yeah.
And then there is this charade saying that, you know what, he's lying, and then
Yeah.
he says, okay, why don't you just kill him if that is the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, this villain, he finds this transmitter on one of the dead guys saying that, okay, oh, he's a cop. No, no, not
Yep.
him. So it's a premeditated whole thing plan, which may
Yeah.
not be right away visible, but
Yeah.
that kind of felt good. But
Yeah.
then again, after that, I was like, okay, the cult seems to be really very dumb. In certain
Yeah.
aspects. I'm like,
They were pretty dumb.
yeah,
It
yeah,
seemed like,
yeah, like,
you now, who was the actor who played the main villain, who I thought was good because he just seemed dead in the eyes? But then you're saying
mhm.
maybe that dead in the eyes is because he wasn't great at the language, but it worked for the role.
It kind of worked because you need somebody who's
Right.
emotionless. So
Hmm.
kind of it worked out, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of worked.
So the actor's name is Pratik Babbar.
I
He
thought
is
he
a
was cool.
Bollywood. Yeah, he's a Bollywood actor.
Yeah,
I
he was
think
good.
for me the main problem that I see is when you don't have native speakers, it's very
Yes.
hard to when you're saying the dialogues or expressing yourself, it becomes really very hard. You're unable
Right.
to connect with it. Yeah, and then there are certain aspects which I really like especially when Nani or Arjun Sarkar, he doesn't speak Hindi, but when he's like posted in the northern part of India or he's talking to people who primarily speak Hindi, he's like trying to communicate with them in Hindi language, but he's like his grammar is not right or his wordings are not right. He's saying to say, you know what, this is what I'm trying to tell you, which is very good.
Mm,
In a very
yeah.
that's a very good way. Sometimes you
That's
might
very
have,
cool.
yeah, sometimes you'll have actors who just switch to speaking the language right away because
Yeah.
obviously not being from the region, there is going to be a difference in how you pronounce things,
Yeah.
or you have an accent like similarly I do
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I like that they used it, like there was a lot of English in this movie. Like
Hmm.
because of that language barrier between the two different languages, they ended up like, we'll just speak English. Both of us know that. So
Yeah.
I like that they kind of did that. So they basically had a lot of languages going. So you got this multicultural vibe to it. And
Hmm.
I like that kind of gave him a little bit of a weakness in a way where he didn't know the language. So he's trying to communicate in his usual way, but he can't. So he's kind of like,
Yeah.
what do I say? How do I say this? So I really liked that and made him feel a little more like a fish out of water, which I think really
Mhm.
worked.
But there are few things. One thing is he always had somebody beside him who spoke the language.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But then I was like wondering, okay, what will happen when he goes to see the cult leader? Turns out the cult leader can speak multiple languages.
he was
So
he
he
was
was
the only
talking to him.
smart one.
Yeah, he was talking to him in Telugu. So I was like, okay,
He was
because
talking to
that's
us really good. All right.
yeah, because the character Arjun asked him like, how do you know Telugu? And he's like, I speak multiple.
I love that.
Okay,
Some
yeah,
people do.
that's some people do. That's good.
If you're running a criminal organization with snuff films, you got to transcend a lot of cultures and languages. That's how it is. But I did like that the people there, were chanting, like I said, the cult. He's probably reining in a bunch of these rich people who want the chance. This was also there's been a horror movie franchise basically where, a bunch of rich people buy into the ability to be able to, kill people or
Yeah.
watch people actually be killed. It's kind of a common, because no one's ever proven snuff films actually exist, for
Hmm.
real or not. And I think part of it, this kind of exposed a little bit of that, is like people just aren't smart enough to pull it off in any way.
Hmm.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like there's too many moving parts. Now, yeah, have there been people who killed people on film? Yes, there has, but not like an organized snuff film organization, right?
Hmm.
So that's what I liked, is that these people seemed really brutal, but also like not very smart and just kind of in for the kill. Like, oh, we all arrived and we're staying at this cool place and we get to see people get killed. Like they all just seemed like idiots, right? So I
Yeah.
like that here's this big bad guy going, okay, we're gonna do this now, and it just all seems so superficial and lame. But at the same time, we got to see Nani go into a dungeon, kill a bunch of people, do a big one shot, cut people in half, spray, blood everywhere till he was completely covered in blood by the end of it. And some of it was his, which I thought
Mhm.
was an interesting. So it was so over the top that I enjoyed it. And you could see they kind of were having fun with it at depth. Even though it was super
Yeah.
gory and horror filmish, it seemed like they had fun with that. But that's where it was, they took off from the other two films. This one got really barbaric toward the end.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
none of them are that hardcore. They have their moments, but this was, yeah. And I know that during the trailer reactions, I did a lot of laughing and having fun with people watching it because it was, but that's because I'm a horror movie fan, just putting in some context. I find that stuff fun and I see the craft and I see the production value and I see people making a stunt or blood stunt happen between the wet and
Mhm.
dry violence. So I enjoyed it, and that's how I enjoy it. I'm a step away from when I'm watching it, thinking about the production actually being done on set. So I'm not actually seeing anyone get killed. So there's that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I really enjoyed this movie. I'm actually looking forward to the next one because what happened at the very end, we got a little sneak peek of what the next
Of
movie is
the
going to
next
be.
one is gonna be. And before we even talk about it, so the lead actor from Hit 2, Advi Sesh, he shows up in Hit 3 as well.
That's right.
So when the
Very end.
cops are looking for an extra
That's right.
hand for help, he comes in with his
Just in
dog.
time.
And then he comes just in time saving, and then Arjun goes all hardcore. He's like, you know what, I'll just take care of these things.
He's like, let me handle this.
Yeah.
Comes running in, spraying everybody with bullets. It was like, oh my God. Yeah, that was a great scene. That was
Yeah.
really fun. So that was the
And
big ending. He had to be rescued. Oh, well, that's
mhm.
okay.
And then he survives. So
Yeah,
okay,
well,
finally.
I said,
Yeah.
that's fine.
But
Fine.
yeah, I guess even the supporting actress, they did a great job. Like
Yeah.
his the cop who's
Mhm.
who's always asking for day off because it's
Yeah.
daughter's presentation day or something at school, and then Nani is like, no.
I
And
like those little tidbits because you think
yeah,
of they have a little moments of reality of like, we're cops and we're doing it all the time. It's
yeah,
like, oh, hold on, I have to take a little time off for my daughters. That's
yeah,
it's just funny. And the dating
yeah,
and all that.
yes.
It was not a movie that was taking itself too seriously. And I appreciate that too.
Yeah, I guess that's in a way, it takes the people's mind off saying
Mhm.
that it's a dark movie,
Yeah.
or maybe they don't have to be prepared
Yeah,
for all the
humor.
blood gore which comes. Yeah,
It
that
gave
was
us
good.
everything. Humor, cop
Yeah,
mystery, gore, horror. It was intense. It was a lot.
yes.
So, but I really
And
liked it.
then
And then we had
the
the
final
cameo.
cameo by
Everybody's favorite.
Karthi.
Marty! Oh my god. See,
Yes,
that just levels it up again because 'cause you're like, they've
yes.
had great actors in this series, and but
Mm-hmm.
Carty just like, holy I
Yeah.
cannot wait for this next one, and I hope
Mm-hmm.
it's as extreme as this. I hope they keep getting more and more crazy because that would
Yeah.
be great. I
I
would
mean,
love that.
Karthi as a cop, he's really very good.
So good. Oh my
Like he's done quite a few
god. Mhm.
movies. Like I recall his so there is one movie called Thiran Adhigaram Ondru. I don't know if you watched it. It's a very good
Mhm.
Karthi cop movie, and he, especially in this particular movie, is his dialogues, the way he's just walking around with swag. He's very casual. He
Funny.
understands languages. He's watching like you know a cricket match going on, and then he's like, I like it. I mean, his entry
So
seems to be
good.
super cool.
It was
Yeah.
so cool. Great entry scene, great little bump at the end after you've been through all
Hmm.
this carnage. So I really enjoyed this movie. I love Marco also. I like this kind of John Wick genre that's kind of coming around and where it's ultra
Hmm.
violent, but then it also has a little sense of humor. I think that's just like perfect. So it seems like
Yeah.
we have a few different languages and film, companies trying to do this, and everybody seems to be really good at it because they understand the extreme violence and the extreme pace of these movies is the point. So you
Yeah.
don't really have to fix it. You don't have to make it any different. You just have to keep it rolling, and that's what they did. So
Yes.
I really liked it.
So in a way, I think it kind of the franchise will go on. It's this may not. This is a good movie. I would say it's an average movie from my perspective.
Okay.
So
I thought it was a
yeah.
little above average for me because I liked him in it just as
Hmm.
a like a star turn, him
Yeah.
doing something different. And I love when actors take a chance because I know it's a big
Hmm.
deal, especially like remember
Yeah.
Kapoor did it. Everybody's like, wow, the movie's way too violent for him. But it turned out they said, yeah, he can do it. And you're like, that's right. So
Yeah.
I like that. I like the chance an actor took. And I like the sense of humor and I appreciate the animal hero.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that puts it a couple clicks. I have a different, standard of quality than
Yeah.
you do.
I know.
And mine is animal hero gives it 2 extra points.
Yes.
So, and a cute lead. That's it. So we're
Yeah.
good on that.
Hmm.
So let us know your thoughts about Hit 3 in the comments. Did you see it? How was the audience reaction? what happened, was it crowded? In the meantime, should we review the other hit 3? I wanna review all the other hit films and, like, use
Yeah,
them
we
as, like,
actually.
catalysts into it. I've seen one a long time ago, I watched hit 1,
Mhm.
but I feel like I wanna watch hit 1. Never did a review of it, but I wanna, like, do all of the hit movies, and then we can be complete, but we'll definitely do that.
Yes,
Would people
we
be
will do
into
this.
that? Yes.
Mhm.
Alright, Ramesh, thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining
thank
me in
you.
this fun review, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.